Well, hello, I'm Ducati, and these are my archives, and today we're going to be diving into all the books I've read this year thus far, from January to April. I don't have any of the books I actually have read because most of them have been on Libby, and if not Libby, Spotify through like their audiobook. Like if I'm paying for premium, I'm using every premium feature. And then my mom has an Audible account that we're trying to get rid of, so we need to use all the credits. Yeah, so to get right into it, January, I started by reading Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh. It's set in like a medieval fiefdom era. Of course, we have a corrupt lord at the top of the hill who's controlling all of our resources and whatever else. The story actually follows this 13-year-old boy, Marek, who lives at the top of another hill, maybe. He lives away from the main village with his dad, Jude. Dad's a shepherd, and his mom's dead. And Marek, he has like no friends, and he's really deformed, so it's hard for him to just like do farm tasks also. The way I imagine him is like the boy version of Yennefer from The Witcher, and like before she got her body by magic, plastic surgery magic redo. But the book is segmented into 4 parts. Each part is a season. So we go from spring to spring. Or do we go? Maybe it's 5 parts. We start on spring, we end on spring. And you follow actually a few different characters, but you start and I think you also end with Marek. What happens with him? He, with like the one friend he has, makes a very, very questionable decision. Honestly, I'll say it. It was a bad decision. Like there's actually no question about it. It was a bad decision. And his luck turns. You know, ultimately it was for his better. Not the better of the world, but his better. And he gets to be kind of fostered by the Lord at the top of the hill. And he just kind of navigates what a weird life he's been thrust into. Yeah. There's a lot of like, you start the story and you think you have an understanding of the village. You might have some questions, but there's so much more, like the old lady that is probably a witch but was everyone's wet nurse. How was she your dad's and your wet nurse? I digress. This story overall, grotesque, twisted, monstrous, but fun to listen to and be like, hey, this is some crazy shit. That was Lapvona. So next we have Big Swiss by Jen Beagin. Big Swiss is about this older woman. She's probably in her 50s. She moves to Hudson, New York, and she's working as a transcriber for a sex therapist. I assume he wants to make some sort of book later on. She's transcribing his sessions. The way the sessions work is that the patient or client will come in, they'll start recording, and they'll say their initials, and that's why, like, obviously our main character has signed confidentiality agreements, but it's still keeping a sense of anonymity because she does live with these people in town. So sometimes she'll go, she doesn't actually have a lot of friends, but sometimes she'll go maybe to like the bar and she'll hear someone talking and she'll be like, that voice, like who is that? And she'll be like, oh, that's AH. And that happens one time and she contacts the therapist. She's like, hey, like I kind of recognize one of the patients or one of the clients. And he's like, it's fine. Like, I don't expect you not to have any friends in this town. Like, everyone's basically my client. Like, it's fine. She's like, okay, whatever. She doesn't really act on that. She's intrigued by these people. It's like a drama for her, but also she keeps her distance. That is until this one story intrigues her to no end. And this person, whose initials I forgot, but this person, she gives the moniker Big Swiss. She does eventually meet Big Swiss at a dog park. And at this dog park, they kind of get each other out of this like weird situation with this dude or whatever. After that, they begin their friendship or their relationship or whatever it is. Yeah. Meanwhile, main girl is not telling Big Swiss, obviously, that she's listening to all of her therapist sessions. Okay. I don't know if I would tell my new friend that either, but the thing I like about this though is that she is such an unreliable narrator. Also, reading this story is like watching a car crash. Like, you're in your car, you're driving, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, you're like, I'm so glad that's not me. But oh my gosh, I can't stop watching. Like, that's horrific what's happening. But like, glad it's not me. I remember talking to my mom about this, and I was like, I can't believe she's making these decisions. Like, I feel like this is just, and she's like, girl, you don't know this girl. And I was like, I feel like I know her. I'm in her head. Unreliable narrator. Did I really know her? I don't know. But yeah, that was Big Swiss. After that, I read Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler. I read the first one, Parable of the Sower, in August of last year, and then now I decided to read the second one. I couldn't have picked a worse time. This was my first DNF. The issue was that it was too on brand for current time. Some of the appeal about this book is that it is eerily this timeline. Like, eerily, it starts in 2024, and that's when I started the first one. But the reason I actually put this down was, one, the last time I picked up this book to read it, it was January 24th. I know because I wrote in my planner, like, that's the last day I was reading that book, 4 days after inauguration. I already know what I was feeling. I was like, oh, we have to tune into life. We have to tune into life. Life was getting too crazy for books to be an escape. The books weren't the escape anymore. But it is something that I think I'll return to soon. My hold is running out on Libby. I also stopped literally halfway through, 2 seconds before Laron was about to tell us how shit hit the fan. And if you know anything about the first book, if you've read it, you know that, like, you might like a character and then 2 chapters later, they're dead. Dead. Burglars got in and they got kilted. Woo. But yeah, Parable of the Talents. Good. I'll come back to it, but had to put it down. Now, that book actually sent me into a reading slump. And for me, a reading slump is where, like, pretty much I'm not in the mood for anything, but I actually do want to read. So my favorite YouTuber, Carrie Can Read, she posted this video back in January, and it was like a guide for getting out of your reading slump. So about, I would say, 5 or so of my next books are from that video, recommended by Carrie Can Read. But yeah, Parable of the Talents sent me into a reading slump, and I didn't read anything in February. I didn't finish any books, but also I did delete TikTok at the end of February. So reading slump plus TikTok just meant that I read no books. So we start March with Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. Untethered Sky is a novella. It's set in the Middle East, I think, based off of the descriptors. Our main character, Esther, when she was younger, she was traumatized by this beast that runs throughout the land, and it's called a manticore. And this thing, it's like a huge lion with like a mace at the end of its tail and venom in its saliva. Like, if it bites you, you're donezo, even if you get away. These things are horrendous. Like, they get sent into a killing frenzy if people are screaming. You're terrorizing my whole village. You think I'm not gonna scream? Boom, whole village dead. These things are criminals, and they are almost top predator. That is, until like another predator is introduced. These are huge birds that are called rocks, and they are like super tall, like 6'5", maybe 7 feet tall, just perched, standing. And they are the apex predator. They hunt any type of other predator, like something that's like terrorizing the village. But the main, prey that they hunt are manticore. She vows to herself, like, when I grow up, I'm gonna hunt these things. Part of the king's division in his army, I guess, they don't actually fight people. They just fly these rocks. They're called rookers. They sit there and train these rocks, these birds. But the thing about these birds is that this is not some sort of relationship like, oh, I'm gonna train a dog, or oh, I'm gonna train my cat, or oh, I'm gonna break this horse. Like, not that. These animals can never be domesticated. And because of that, the relationship that they have with their trainer, with their rooker, is very delicate. Like, always positively reinforced, la la la. Because if that rock assumes even for a second that you are no longer serving it, like you don't have food for it to eat, you're not bringing it good kills, like none of that, you're donezo. Away I go. So they have to build this like bond, this trust bond, this relationship between each other, but never is this bird domesticated. And because of that, it becomes a story about unrequited love between man and beast. Bittersweet end, but I recommend 10 out of 10. Ugh. Next, we have my second DNF, A Certain Hunger. What do I even say? This story is about this girl, this food blogger, or she's like a critique for restaurants or whatever. She really likes food. She's like obsessed with food. Also a really good cook, but she kills her lovers. Fun, quirky girl kills her lovers, and well, she's writing to us from the start from jail. So you get caught, girl. But I think she also might eat them because the book cover is like someone holding a heart. I just thought the main character was very pretentious, thus the book being pretentious. I think it worked. Like, it worked, but I was bored as a reader. I put it down in like chapter 2 though. So if anyone has read this book and like really like it, or even if you don't like it, but if you read it, can you tell me what it was about? Was it really interesting? Does she get out of jail? And does she eat her lovers? Does she end up cooking them? After that is Half a Soul. This was another recommendation by Carrie Can Read, and it's set in Regency era. It's about this girl who she's cursed when she's younger, and this fairy or whoever, I forget actually what the other entities are, but I think it's a fairy, and it like is supposed to take her soul. Like her soul's been bargained for, and she's like probably like 9, and you know, it comes trying to, you know, take the debt that it's owed, and it gets stopped, so it only takes half of her soul. Because of that, she doesn't feel any emotions. Like, she doesn't feel anger, she doesn't feel love, embarrassment, jealousy, anxiety. She doesn't feel any of that. Which sounds like half a good thing for the bad ones, but it also kind of makes her say things that she shouldn't say in public, especially during Regency era, and it makes her kind of unsuitable for the marriage market. So right now she's a spinster. You know, she's probably like 19, definitely spinster age. Really what she's worried about is her cousin. Her cousin's in her season, traipsing about the marriage market, and they live in the countryside. So they'll go to these engagements, they'll go to these parties, and our main girl will be like, this dude is really boring. All he talks about is horses. Meanwhile, dude is right there. And cousin just has to be like, oh, I loved hearing about horses. Then he eventually goes and she's like, thanks, but girl, you can't be saying that. Whatever. Main girl is like, these suitors here are really kind of garbage. Like, we should probably go to London to find you an actual husband. Cousin's like, I don't know. What about you? Like, so she talks about this dude that she heard of, main girl. She talks about this dude, Lord Sorcier, who's the king's wizard, like personal wizard, works for the throne, works for the crown. And she's like, he's super attractive and he's rich and he's like a bachelor still. Like, the girls in London don't know what's going on. Meanwhile, so at first cousin's like, I don't know. Then she does a little research on Lord Sorcier. And she's like, you know what? Let's go to London right now. They go to London. Yeah, that's Half a Soul. After that, Surprise, surprise, another Carrie recommendation, Foster by Claire Keegan. This is set in rural Ireland in like the past, maybe the 80s. It's about this girl who, her parents have too many kids. Like, I'm sorry, they just have too many kids, and they have another one on the way, and they can't take care of her, so they send her to go live with these other people, like this other couple. Why her of all the kids? I don't know. Maybe she's the eldest. Maybe she is the eldest, but I don't actually know. She goes for the summer so that they can house and feed her. So what I like the most about this story is childlike observations. It's not often that you can like be in the mind of a child and understand like they only understand this much because their world is this little. And they don't understand that the world is bigger than this, or maybe they do, but they don't understand how they can make this understand this. It's about that, it's about their observations. Our main girl is trying to battle big feelings. Just like, I don't actually know. Is she feeling abandoned by her family? Is she feeling like she has to be the perfect pseudo child to this new couple so that they don't kick her out like her parents did maybe, or like make her work, or I don't know. But she's battling a lot of emotions and feelings, and yeah, it's just hard. That was Foster by Claire Keegan. Really good, really short also. I think it's like 90 pages. Like, definitely great for getting out of a reading slump. After that, I read another Irish author, Acts of Desperation. Actually don't know the author, but I know that she's Irish. This I also DNF'd, but I DNF'd this book because, why did I DNF this book? Oh, I didn't have enough time to read it. I had it on Libby, and then I had other books out. Basically, this story is about a girl in a toxic relationship with an older dude that she met. And I picked this up because of the cover, but also because it reminded me of this other story that I picked up actually while I was in Dublin in a bookstore, and it was called We Do What We Do in the Dark. And that was, I feel like it was the same story, but like university setting and sapphic. After Acts of Desperation, I read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. People always have mixed reviews about this book. I enjoyed it. It's about these 39 women plus this one girl in a bunker, and a lot of things about this bunker don't add up. How long have we been there? Why can we not eat meat? These 3 guards are always guarding us, and why do we have these weird rules? Like, why is there just this one young girl with us? What's her deal? So yeah, all of these older women, they know something of their life before they were put in the bunker. They don't know why they were put in the bunker, but they know something of their life. So they have, they've established who they are. This young girl in the bunker, that's pretty much all she's known. She knows no other society than these 39 women. And she knows literally nothing but what they tell her. And she finds herself at first making up these scenarios in her head so she can have something that belongs to just her. Then they get the chance to escape and they take it. Not to spoil what they find or what they discover, but it's a lot of introspection. A lot of the character just like, because at a certain point, that's all you can do is you can't look outside anymore. You must look within. They're literally making a society almost out of nothing. And yeah, that was really interesting. Okay, next, honestly, it's getting a little dark. I might have to turn this on. Oof, gosh, that is a little too bright. Next, we have, yeah, surprise, surprise. Guess who recommended me this book? Carrie can read. Mickey 7 by, who was it by? Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. Obviously, earlier this year, it got turned into a movie, Mickey 17. It was definitely funnier than the book, and it was cute, but it was very different from the book as well. The book, I think, was a lot more serious, a lot more scientific, and left room for a sequel. Obviously, there is a sequel, but the characters are different. Like the movie, there is this character we have, the Expendable, and what happens is that when you're trying to colonize a new planet, you need this like person to be able to do the things that might get other people killed, but you don't have the resources to just like keep killing people. Well, that's unethical. You need someone to volunteer to copy their biological makeup, their mind, that they upload every once in a while so that your memories are still kept updated. This person basically volunteers to do the icky, dangerous tasks and die and then just get brought back again. That's Mickey 7. Our main character starts figuring out that like his bestie has been lying to him about how he died the other time and how he died this time. That leads into a bigger conspiracy that is, I feel like, much more interesting in the books than it was in the movies. But what I will say is that Edward Ashton places flashbacks at really good moments in the story where they're like, at first you're like, is this relevant? And then you end it being like, I needed that piece of information. And they're not too long, which I feel like flashbacks can be. What I will say though is that the science did lose me sometimes. Not that it was like overly complicated or not well explained. I just don't understand what antimatter is. And I might just have to like be okay with not understanding what antimatter is. So yeah, that was Mickey 7. Next, who is surprised? Another recommendation by Carrie Can Read. This one, another sciencey one. This one is All Systems Red. It's a part of the Murderbot diaries, and they're actually making these. I think they're already streaming the TV version of this featuring Alex Skarsgård. I will not be tuning in because I feel like Murderbot, our main character, like at first, in the first book, I imagined masculine features, but Murderbot is actually like non-binary. Like there is no gender to Murderbot, very like explicitly so. So them casting Alex Skarsgård puts a more like permanent features in than I care to imagine Murderbot as having, because yeah, book 1 is the only one I imagine Murderbot having masculine features. After that, it really does change. And it changes based on what crowds that I see that they fit into, or what situations they can manage based on their appearance, like things like that. Actually, I have no opinion of the show other than I won't be tuning in. But this first book is about a security unit that gets like contracted out to protect this. For this time, it's like a survey group that's doing research on a planet. And Murderbot has actually like hacked their governor module, which means that it cannot be made to follow commands. It's rogue. Like it could be out mass murdering people, but all it actually wants to do is sit and watch its stories. Like sit and watch the soap operas or the shows that it's downloaded and do a half-assed version of its job because it would rather be doing other things. Well, sorry Murderbot, but shit does hit the fan, and sometimes humans are really dumb and you have to step in and not tell humans how dumb they are, but protect humans from their stupidity. Murderbot as a character, extremely sarcastic and very funny. Like you're reading someone's observations of, in this case, like humanity and how humans behave from a non-human entity, which we literally never have a perspective on. So hearing this is actually, it's interesting because you realize that we do a lot of weird stuff if you really think about it. But yeah, I read the first 4 books over the course of March and April, but I'm just gonna like group them all together and then give really vague descriptions for the rest of the books because I don't want to really spoil the first book. Like it all hinges on the first book and what happens at the end of it, which is a spoiler. So the next one, oh, and these books are by Martha Wells. So the next one, Artificial Condition. Murderbot goes on an adventure, saves more humans, and is in unfamiliar territory trying to discover themselves. They also make a friend that we really like, guys. Okay, Rogue Protocol, the third one, evidence collection for trial, saving more humans. The fourth one, exit strategy, rescue mission, and a reunion. And I think I'm actually finishing the fifth one today, called Network Effect. That'll be in the next one. Yeah, after All Systems Red, after All Systems Red, I read Crazy Rich Asians. I've owned this trilogy. This is by Kwan. I've owned this trilogy for a few years now because after about 2 years of them not making any moves on the movie, I was like, it's time for me to take action. And action I took. I bought the trilogy, but I hadn't read it. It's just been on my bookshelf. So the movie, or the first book, Crazy Rich Asians, basically it's pretty one-to-one. There are more storylines. There are, fully fleshed out characters that we don't really get to be introduced to. Like Astrid's character, Jimma Chan's character, is more of an actual character. We stay with her a little bit more, and I really liked her storyline. Also just really like Jimma Chan. So one thing I will say about this whole series, imagine the movie Crazier, Richer, More Asian. Crazier, Richer, that's, self-explanatory. More Asian as in like there's more diversity, I think, than the movie. The movie probably put it in the background, but definitely reading the book, I'm like, what is a sultana? Or Thai royalty? Malaysian royalty? Like, we're like all over the place. I'm like, guys, what's the beef with mainland Chinese? Or do we? No, just Chinese. What's the beef with mainland Chinese people? Do Hong Kong people think that they're better? What is that? Like, I just got thrust into a world that I was like, I'm just eating it up. So yeah, I also started to speak Singlish very lightly, guys. Everything la. But I started to speak Singlish a little bit after reading these 3 books. But like I said, the first book, Crazy Rich Asians, follows Rachel and Nick. And Nick is from Singapore, but they're both professors at NYU. Not really relevant, but like shout out. And he's like, hey, like we should go away for the summer. Like we both have time off. Let's do that. I also have to go to a wedding for like the first week. So we'll do that. And then we'll just gallivant around Asia. She's like, can we afford that? He's like, yeah, it's okay. I got it. Basically they go, and surprise, surprise, Rachel has infinite amount of haters because Nick's like this attractive like last bachelor on Singapore, and he's supposed to be inheriting this huge like wealth from his grandmother, from Amma. I think her name is Suli. I'm just gonna call her Amma for the sake of the story. So people are really upset that they also just don't know who she is. Is she a gold digger? Is she mainland Chinese? Is she American-born Chinese? Like there's beef there too. What are we doing? Haters. And her number one hater, Eleanor. So to skip the story and go to the end. Okay, hi, editing me here. Before I continue talking about the rest of this book, it has come to my attention that what I have to say next is 100% a spoiler. Especially if you have not seen the movie Crazy Rich Asians or read the first book. Unfortunately, the spoiler also leads into like half of the second book, but I will put the alarm emoji up so that you can skip through to the spoiler-free content, which picks up at the end of book 2, and then book 3 is definitely spoiler content free. Sorry about that. And yeah, all right, play. Dad is not dead. Eleanor does some investigating, obviously, because she has to. She does some investigating and figures out that Rachel's dad is in prison. Or is he in prison? Yeah, no, Rachel's dad is in prison. And she's like, your mom, you've been lying to everyone this whole time because you didn't want to tell people your dad was in prison. And she's like, I've never met that man. Like, I grew up my whole life Dad's dead. She gets on the phone with her mom. Mom, is my dad dead? Wait, yes, your dad's dead. Yeah, like, who's telling you something otherwise? Is my dad dead? What's going on here? I think my dad's in prison. Is my dad dead? She's like, whoa. Who's telling you this stuff? Let me explain. Is my dad dead? No. Boop, boop, boop. That is that. She does not give her mom another second. Now, me having seen the whole movie, I know her dad's not dead. I know her dad's also not in prison. That man that's in prison is her mom's husband, who used to beat on her. But she doesn't get the chance to figure that out because she done passed out she done passed out in the room out of shock that her dad's not dead and that her mom's been lying to her and that Eleanor and Amma have to come and confront her and tell her that. I would be embarrassed too, but pass out? Let me be quiet, actually. So that's that. That's basically how that ends. The story does end them getting back together. Like, they break up for a little bit, Nick and Rachel, but then they get back together. Whatever. End of book 1. Book 2. 2 years later, they're getting married. Who was surprised, though? Like, but also, guess who hasn't spoken to their mom in like 2 years? Nick. But guess who crashes the wedding? Eleanor. She comes bearing news. She met Rachel's dad. Not the one in prison. He's not the dad. She met Rachel's dad. And she's like, he wants to meet you. Like, I told him what happened, basically, and he wants to meet you. So, second book, Rachel gets to meet her family. Her other family. Her dad's family. And a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's the main story. That's actually the second one, China Rich Girlfriend. That ends with them going back to New York and being like, Singapore, China, that was a little much for me. We need to just go back to New York. Third book, final book, Rich People Problems. Amma has a heart attack. She's okay though, guys. Like, fret not. But all the grandkids, all the family, they're like, it's almost time to go. And we need to come race by her bedside and see if she's gonna put us in the will. See if I can inherit Tyrosol Park at Eddie. That's Eddie's character. And Nick, who hasn't spoken to Amma, because this is, again, I think 2 years later. Nick hasn't spoken to Amma since Crazy Rich Asians, since she saw Rachel pass out. At first he's like, I don't really think I should go, like, whatever. And then Rachel's like, no, you should go. Like, you should go see your Amma. And, you know, because what if this is the last time you get to see her? So he goes to Singapore and he tries to see his Amma. That's one storyline. Another storyline, obviously something crazy is going on with Astrid, but I can't even get into her and her husband because that is a whole nother video, I feel like, getting into this whole trilogy. Because it's so interesting. I really recommend, especially if you even had a twinkle of, oh, I like this movie, you should definitely read the books. They're so good and so much more detailed. And maybe you'll start speaking Singlish like me. Everything la. Okay, finally. Goodness gracious, I feel like I read too many books. Finally, we have another translated fic. We have The Memory Police. This is by Yoko Ogawa. Yeah, I feel for this book what I feel like a lot of people feel for I Who Have Never Known Men. I feel like there wasn't really much that happened. I think I might have been more intrigued by this book than I Who Have Never Known Men, not to really compare them, but because there were more characters. There was actually more going on in this one, but there was still nothing that happened. Like the world, like, let's give the synopsis first. Basically, these people, they live on an island and things just disappear sometimes, some days. They don't feel any type of way about it. Like, things actually do disappear from their minds, and like they forget what these things are. They forget how they're pronounced. Like, and once they wake up and there's a new day and like they're like, oh, I wonder what's disappeared today. Like, they'll feel it coming on. they will get the urge to just destroy whatever it is. Something about the story is that I think things don't add up. I think because, not to spoil it, hats disappear. And once like something disappears that has to do with someone's profession, they have to find a new profession. And because hats disappeared, this milliner that the main character knows doesn't have a job anymore. But our main character still refers to him as a milliner. And I'm like, how the fuck do you know what a milliner is if you don't know what a hat is? It's just some inconsistencies like that. But the thing about this story is I think it was more about the relationships that were being built and more character driven than plot driven. Because so many times in like a sci-fi novel when there's something like this, because obviously there's some people who still remember the things that have been forgotten, and that's when the memory police come in and like round them up. But so many times where there's like some injustice like this, you expect them to want to like fight back or, get to the bottom of it. That just doesn't happen here. There's no real urge to do that. Like, this entity that is the memory police is so big, so grandiose that they just hope that they can not be rounded up by said memory police. Yeah, I don't love that, but then again, not everyone has to be a rebellion. Or actually what I read on Reddit was that they were rebelling in their own way by trying to remember some of the things or trying to create this little life and not, give in to the memory police all the way. That was the memory police, and that was also the end of all the books that I read, January to April. I think that's a total of 15 books and 3 DNFs. I don't typically have reading goals. I don't typically either have to incentivize myself to read. I just need something good to read. That's there. If you've read any of the books that I've read, let me know what you thought about them. Also, leave any recommendations down below. What was your favorite book that you've read this year? If you've read A Certain Hunger, please spoil it. Please tell me what it's about. Yeah, thanks for watching, and see you again sometime.